Apply for something that you didn't think you could get. You never know what might happen if somebody sees your application. Think about it. What would happen if you actually would go after something that you did not think you could get? What would happen if you actually decided, hey, I'm going to take a risk and apply for this job or start this business or start this venture? Because I believe that at some point it's going to pay off in the end. Hi, everybody. Lee Scott here. Thank you for watching and or listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee, where we talk about life, leadership, and legacy. And we believe that every person has a capacity and level of leadership, and we want to help you discover the leader within. So today, I'm super excited that you are here because this is a great subject that I'm going to talk about today. If you have not done it yet, subscribe on YouTube and all podcasting platforms before we get into the subject today. But I just also want to comment on last week. Last week, you heard from my friend Andrea Roll, on the podcast version. And if you're listening to this right now and you did not listen to last week's episode, definitely go back and listen to Andrea. She had some great tips and some great insight last week. And even before that, go back and listen to the episode where I share about leadership in a unique way. And I actually share some things concerning this month, which is Women's History Month. And I'm going to do an episode today that focuses on that. So I want to talk about today. And also I want to preemptively tell you about a preview of next week's episode that's on the podcast stream. It's going to be with my friend Ryan Gordon, and she has some great insight to share with us. But today I'm super excited that you are here to improve in the areas of life, leadership, and legacy, because that's what we talk about here on Leading with Lee. So today, I want to give you my subject because it's Women's History Month, and I even said this last time on the last episode that I'm going to talk about women today and really hone in and encourage women today. Today, I'm calling this episode, She Can Do It. Just say it to yourself, ladies, I can do it. And guys, if you're listening to this or watching this, please, I encourage you to comment and share this with women in your life and people that are impacting you in a significant way. And I just want to share some things with you today about women in leadership and why it's so important for us to have some context of how they are making a difference in our world. So let's start with defining. Every episode of it, I've always said, I'm going to give you definitions because I think definitions are super important. So I'm going to give you my definition of leadership. And I believe that leadership is seeing something that has not happened yet and taking people, organizations, and personal processes in that direction. Once again, I believe that leadership is seeing something that has not happened yet and taking people, organizations, and personal processes in that direction. Now, let me give you some stats about women in the workforce and how they are transforming corporate America so much. It's amazing that women are doing so many significant things at this point, and they're starting to get a lot of equity in a lot of ways. And there's still a long way to go when we talk about pay and different things like that. But there are some positive things that are happening that women are doing right now. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they found in 2019 that 57.4% of all women participated in the labor force. This is up from 57.1% who participated in 2018, but it is about 2.6% points below the peak of 1999, which was 60%. Now we know that we're at an interesting moment in time. We are still in the middle of a pandemic in some ways. We are now on the backside where it's turning from a pandemic and becoming an endemic in our culture and society. And people are starting to make a lot of movements. And I just want to give some statistical things that are affecting women right now within the workforce, and their moms and women that are listening to this that are asking themselves, how can I maneuver and move through the world? And trust me, the pandemic, COVID-19 has literally transformed these numbers significantly. And I was looking at an article that was sharing a Mckenzie study about women at work, and it shared these 7 things that are pretty alarming, and I think we really need to keep in our back of our minds when we think about women in the workforce. And I'm going to give you some strategies after I share this with you. Stated one of the things that they found was that a quarter of women are considering leaving the workforce or downsizing their career at this current moment. Obviously, we know this due to the pandemic. Mothers are trying to figure out, how can I sustain doing the work that I need to do, but taking care of my children, or taking care of my aging parents, or taking care of a family member that may or may not have access to the things that they need. I'm willing to make the sacrifices currently. The second thing that we're finding out to be very alarming is that Black women are 3 times more likely than non-Black women to have reported the death of a loved one as a recent challenge. We know that statistically showing that African Americans are 3 times more likely to die from COVID-19. And some of that is connected to access to healthcare. Some of that's connected to living in impoverished communities. Some of that is connected to a host of medical issues that African Americans deal with in our culture. But many of these women are the first to do a lot of things. And so their lives are being shifted because they have actually lost someone in the process, or lost an income that made a big difference in their lives. Number 3, it says that women spent 2/3 more time on childcare than men did during the first lockdown. At the beginning of the pandemic, most women spent time taking care of children. Now that's huge. Obviously, we know this to be true. Most of the time, mothers are doing the most and the bulk of the work when it comes down to childcare. And we understand that at this present moment, we are still dealing with shortages in daycare, and shortages in healthcare, and shortages in spaces where children are the priority and need access, or need to be taken care of, in order for parents to go and do their jobs and actually make an income to improve the lives of their children. This is happening all around us, and we need to pay attention to the numbers. 4th, it says less than 1 in 10 people think that a mother with a preschool age child should work full time. That's alarming. People think that because your child is under the age of 4 years old, you should not even be working full time as a woman. Now that's very shocking to me. But because of the things that children need, and because of the things that these kids are actually need to get, whether for its nature and nurture, and for its access and development, all those things, there are a lot of people that believe that 1 in 10 mothers probably should not be out in the workforce, which is interesting. Number 5, it says the average pension pot for a 65-year-old woman in US dollars is $40,896.18. That is 1/5 of the average pension pot for a man of the same age. 1/5. That's alarming. Women at 65 years old at 65 only have 1/5 of the same pension that a man has in their space. Number 6, it says more than 78% of those who have lost their jobs since the crisis began are women. The vast majority of women have lost their jobs since the pandemic began. That's shocking, especially when you consider that in many cases, there might be women who are single mothers, and they may be the sole breadwinner in their family. And when the crisis started, they did not think that they would be the one that not only loses their job, but having to look for a job in an environment that's very, very unsettled. And I know we have had a recent job increase numbers over the last year, and workforce development has grown a lot, but there is still some segments of society that have not been able to go back fully to careers that they thought that they had at one point in time. And this is the last stat that this article shared. And I'm going to give some insight to how we can address this issue. It says, lastly, for every 100 men promoted in an entry-level management position, only 85 women are also. So there's though there has been progress, there's still a lot of inequity in women's ability to move in their careers. I want to talk about this today because I truly believe that we have to address the significance of women being in the workforce and how much that has impacted and shifted the way life happens in America at this point. I believe that we should support women in their careers. I believe that we should push women to be ambitious and really go after the things that they want to go after. I believe that everybody in families have to figure out how to make sacrifices to ensure that everyone gets an opportunity to live out their dreams. That's just what I personally believe. And this is an interesting thing because as we acknowledge Women's History Month, we are dealing with the ideas and dealing with the realities that women face every single day. This is a real thing that happens every single day for women. And since the pandemic started in 2020, it has created an issue throughout their lives over the last 2 years. And I think we can address it. And I think I have some ideas of how we can address these issues and actually take a new step forward in the right direction. First of all, I think the way we can address these issues, some of these issues, is number one, find work that aligns with your life, your values, and your lifestyle. Now, I know some people may say, oh, well, that's a very, very theoretical thing, Lee. That's something that I, as a mother, I, as a woman, I, as a sister, I, as a caretaker, don't have access to. What do you mean find work that aligns with my life, values, and lifestyle? Well, I think in this environment, the whole economy has been pushed in a way to transform and change itself because of the realities that we are facing. As I shared in our first episode of this season, I talked about how remote work has become a very viable thing for businesses because they're starting to realize that it acts as more cost effective and cost efficient to give people an opportunity to work from home. Interestingly enough, when I lived in Tulsa, there was this company called it was called Tulsa Build, and there was it was called Tulsa Remote. I'm sorry, I misspoke, but it was called Tulsa Remote, and Tulsa Remote literally was moving people from all over the country to Tulsa to do work from their houses. A wonderful woman I met through Tulsa Remote, she actually was a hiring manager for a company. She actually said to me, she said, I got in Tulsa Remote and got this job doing HR and hiring, and I could do it from home. And it gave me an opportunity to spend more time with my children. It gave me an opportunity to do some other things that I wanted to do because I can now manage my time a little bit differently. I really think that it's important for you as a woman to prioritize what you want in your career. And this goes for anybody, but I'm specifically talking to women today that there's some things and some values that you have that you want to see in your workspace. You may be a mother who cares about eco-friendly clothing and eco-friendly products being sold in spaces that actually align with trying to protect your children from all harmful plastics and different things like that. And you may be listening to this and you're saying to yourself, hey, I want to find a job that actually considers this to be necessary, considers this to be a priority, considers what I feel about the environment, considers what I feel about how my kids are getting taken care of in school. They consider those things. And you have the right to think about whether or not you want to stay in a space, not just for the money, but just for the fact that you want to be in something that aligns with your life, your values, and your lifestyle. It is completely okay for you to have that position. It's completely okay for you to take that approach to life because the reality is that you deserve to operate in a space where you feel the most fulfilled. Here's the thing, and I truly believe this for any person that's listening to this. You have the right to choose how you want to live your life, especially if it's a positive and a productive thing. You have to figure out, does this job become more important than my emotional and social and mental development? Now hear me. I do believe in working to make sure that you take care of the things you need to take care of. But while you work, look for things. While you do something in one season of your life, plan to move, plan to shift, plan to go into another direction, because I think those things are just as important for you at every stage of your life. Listen, get your partner involved in the conversations about how can you do that well? How can this transition look? What does it look like for me to actually pursue starting in the business that I've always wanted to start? What does it look like for me to actually become a partner within a company that I've always been interested in? What does it look like for me to not actually take my kids to practices and stuff, but I can go and volunteer and do something that's fulfilling for myself? What does that look like? It looks like you having some conversations about what aligns with your values, what aligns with your lifestyle, and aligns with your life. Number two, I think this is super critical for women to do. And this is why I say definitely listen to last week's episode with Andrea, because if you're on YouTube, you can go in the feed and find it. But on the podcast version, if you're in the feed, you can see that conversation with Andrea was huge. Because there's something that Andrea shares in this episode that I think is super critical for women to understand, that a lot of times women are looking for if they're qualified and not just applying for something. She shares how women often do not believe that they can do something because they're looking at the qualifications and they're looking at the limitations that they might have. Sis, my friend, I want you to go after some stuff that you did not think you could go after. That's my second point. Take risk and apply for more different and diverse jobs. Let me tell you something. What we're realizing more and more now than ever is that when we have diverse and unique workforces, and we have a diversity of thought in the workforce, it causes that organization to grow and transform in ways that are beneficial to the company's future. We need you in those spaces. They need your perspective. They need your heart. They need your thought life. They need your processes. They need the way that you go about doing things. They need your cult. They need you to come into that space and bring something new to that culture. But you have to realize that you cannot hold yourself back and not believe that you can go after those things. As Andrea said last week, apply for something that you didn't think you could get. You never know what might happen if somebody sees your application. Think about it. What would happen if you actually would go after something that you did not think you could get? What would happen if you actually decided, hey, I'm going to take a risk and apply for this job or start this business or start this venture? Because I believe that at some point it's going to pay off in the end. Sometimes you just actually need to bet on yourself in order for you to actually see that you are worth betting on. Some of us need to be betted on. My friend, sis, you need to be betted on. You needed to be supported. You need people to actually understand that you are great at what you do. You need people to actually see that you can make their company better, but you have to bet on yourself, sis. My friend, you have to bet on yourself. Young woman, you got to bet on yourself. Even if you're seasoned, if you've been there for a long time, still bet on yourself. Whether you're young at heart or young in age, bet on yourself, because the more you bet on yourself, the more you take risks, the more you invest in you, people will start to actually put more value on what you do every single day. And my last point, as it relates to this idea of how we can address some of these systemic issues that are happening around us, that some of it is changing, obviously, because there are efforts being made by organizations and companies around the country and even around the world to actually empower more women in the workspace, is lastly, trust your instinct. Trust your instinct for new ventures. Listen, life is a lot of times is about timing. It really is. Life often is affected by timing. A woman that has impacted me in a significant way, and I love her story. She has a great book. She was the first Black president of an African nation. Her name is Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, a phenomenal woman, brilliant woman. This woman was an activist for over 20 years, and she actually rose to become president of that nation, as I stated earlier. And President Sirleaf was so powerful because this woman in exile was writing and doing all these different things, and she was an economist, and she was doing all, and there are people that there was a terrible regime in at the time, and they were doing so many horrible things, and this woman continued to speak out against issues. But a time came where President Sirleaf was the right person. She was the right person for the moment. She was the right person for the job, and it made a big difference in transforming her country and actually moving Liberia forward. This is the thing for you. Whether you're a guy or a lady listening to this today, no matter who you are that are listening to this, you got to realize that timing matters, that preparation matters, that you actually listening to your instinct matters. You actually getting something in your mind saying, you know what, I'm really going to go after this. I don't know. I just have a good feeling about this. This is what I did. I can tell you the last decade of my life has been, obviously, part of it has been my faith and having praying parents and having people that are believers around me. But some of it also, too, was my instinct and me being aware of knowing what I was capable of. Some of it was me actually being aware of my capacity. What could I do? Who would have thought that a kid that grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, from birth to 20 years old, will make a decision to move across the country to a place where I knew no one, to move to Tulsa, Oklahoma, lived there for 7 years, had no obligation to come back home, had no need to come back home. But because I had a vision, and because I love my hometown, and because there's some things that I believe is possible here, I came back. Who does that? I did it because of instinct. I could sense something was changing. Have you ever had a moment in your life where you could sense something was changing? Where you might have been writing or reading or was at a place, or you met this person, you were like, I don't know what it is about us meeting, but there's a connection here. There's something here. I don't know what it is. I can't put my words on it. I just know it's something. We all have had that experience where something something happen to us. We had a serendipitous moment happen. We had an aha moment happen in our lives. And we came to see and understand what was happening later when we look back and we're like, oh my gosh, that actually made a big difference in my life. And so my encouragement for you is to realize that your instincts could actually be the key to the next thing in your life. It really could be. It really, really could be. I'm going to take a pause right here, and we'll be right back after these messages. Hi, everybody. Lee here, and I want to give some information to you. Do you need someone to host an event or come and speak at your event?
You can now book yours truly. Book me for your event by visiting www.leeascott.com. I am so excited to connect with you and do work with you. Much love, and let's get started.
And we are back, and I'm super excited that you are still here for Leading with Lee. I just want to share some things with you before I go, because I really believe that the ladies that are listening to this right now, the women that are listening to this right now, you would actually realize that you can make a big difference in the world. And the men that are listening to this right now, you will begin to reflect on those women who have impacted you. And I just want to take a few moments to actually acknowledge some women that have impacted me. There's some women that have shaped my life and caused me to be the person that I am. First and foremost, I got to talk about my mother, Valerie Scott. I love this woman so much with all my heart. I love my mom, and I'm so grateful for everything that she's ever done for me. And every moment she has been there, every significant moment that has ever happened in my life, my mom has been there. She's always been in my corner. She's always supported me. She always has believed in me. Even now, as I come back home, she has become even more critical in the conversations that we have had about different things that's going on with me. We have had some funny and great conversations about stuff that's just going on with me as an adult. And I love my mom, and I so admire her, the leader that she is, the woman that she is. I'm so proud of her. I'm so proud of her betting on herself for the first time in her life. My mom is taking more risk at this point in her life. My mom is being more bodacious about who she is willing to be at this particular point in her life. And I'm so proud of her because she believes that she can make a difference in the world. My grandmothers, I love them so much. Miss Nellie, Jean, Scott, and Miss Ruby Forrest Michaels. I love these two women so much. I love these women. These women have truly been women of great faith. They're women that believe in God and believe in family. They truly believe in family. And their faith has impacted me so much. They're the reason why I chose the faith that I have. They're the reason why I have faith in general. And they are so significant, have been pillars in my family and pillars in my life. But there's one particular thing about Ruby that I want to point out that has probably impacted me more now as an adult than I actually realized. I actually realized that my grandmother Ruby has always been an activist. She has had an activist spirit about her. She's always cared about her community and her people that are around her benefiting from what she does. This woman, when she was a patrol officer for the city of Jackson for over 20 years, knew every elected official in my hometown. And they knew Miss Ruby. They knew Miss Ruby because Miss Ruby was vocal about what she felt strongly about. When our city went through a furlough, she was out protesting, and she was out pushing our elected officials to do the right thing by its city workers. My grandmother has always been somebody very active, and she's actually encouraged me and motivated me in my ambitions and goals for the future. And I'm so grateful for her, and I love her for that. There are other women that have personally impacted me, and I'm just going to name a few of them. And I'm not going to name all of them, but I'm going to name a few of them that have been impacting my life or impacted me at some point in my life directly. My friend Megan Pinckney, Andrew Rowe, who I always talk about, and you heard her speak here on Leading, and even I had Megan on here at one time before. Celia Armstrong, Felina Thomas, Sierra Lancaster, Janice Bagby, Shalandria Walker Evans, Betty Lamb, Ruby Libertis, and many, many more women, big and small, whether you have had a conversation with me or you have just come in contact with me or you said something kind to me, you have impacted me personally in a significant way. And it has caused me to realize that I have value. I say thank you. I say thank you for what you have done for me personally. But I realized that there are some women that I have impacted directly. And I was thinking about this, and hopefully she'll listen to this or see this, and I'm probably going to tell her about it. But one of my best friends in the whole wide world is my sister, Deja Brown. I love Deja. That is my sister. I've known her for over a decade, and I've seen her evolve and grow. I've seen her become the woman that she is today. When I knew her in high school, she was Deja Moore. And we were both in vocal performance at Power APAC at Murrah High School here in Jackson, Mississippi. And we became friends then. And we've been friends ever since. We stayed friends in college, and she would call me and ask for advice and ask for insight and say, bro, I feel this way about these things. I feel this way about these things. And I'm so proud of her. I'm so proud of how she has continued to go through college and done the things that she needs to do. I'm so proud to see how she's actually stepped out and started a project that she had always been dreaming about and talking about with Daddy's Princesses. Deja, I'm proud of you. I'm so proud of what you have become and what you have pushed yourself to be, because at some point in your life, you start realizing that you had a capacity and level of leadership and that you could make a difference in the world. And there are other women that I probably have impacted, but I specifically wanted to shout out my sister Deja, because I've watched her grow and I watched her do some things. And here's the thing. All of us have been impacted by somebody. All of us have been shaped by somebody. And whether you believe it or not, you are impacting somebody. It could be your younger siblings, like my younger sister, Christine, as much as I love her. My sister would call me. She FaceTimes me a lot. She'll call me, she'll text me, because she just wants to have insight and conversations with her brother. And she tells me things and she shares things with me because she feels like I could be a safe space for her to be honest, authentic, and real. How important is it for you to understand how you operate and function in relationships with people? All of us have the capacity to make impact. Whether you believe it or not, you can make impact on people. You can change or affect somebody's life. And that's what's super important. And lastly, at large, there are women that have affected the culture. There are so many women. I can go on and on and on about first in our society and culture. There are women that have been presidents of nations, CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, astronauts, doctors, artists, all while being mothers, sisters, and friends. There are women right now that are listening to me right now. You are making a difference in the world and you are impacting the culture. Why is this important for you to know? It's because you can never sell yourself short. You can never say that what you're doing in your life doesn't matter. You can never say that I should just fall back. I should just give up. I should just not do it. I should just not bet on myself. My friend, I'm here to tell you, we need you to bet on yourself. We need you to step out and take a chance, because the reality is the world needs your expression in it. Much love. Let's get started. And I'm going to see you next time here on Leading with Lee. Thank you for watching and or listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee. If you have not done it yet, subscribe on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. If you want to get more information and connect with me, visit me at www.leeascott.com or follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Lee A. Scott II or Lee A. Scott II. So thank you for watching. Much love, and let's get started.